So, imagine you've just designed the ultimate behavior plan for a client.
Right.
You've basically thrown the absolute kitchen sink at a severe problem behavior.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Right. You've got like token boards, functional communication training, specific reinforcement schedules, maybe some planned ignoring in there too.
The whole works.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, it works perfectly. Like the data is beautiful,
Mhm.
the target behavior just drops to zero, and the client is absolutely thriving.
Which is the dream, albeit.
It is. You should be thrilled. But then, this realization hits you. You have absolutely no idea what actually fixed the problem.
Yes. That is, I mean, that's the classic trap.
Right. Like, was it the communication training? Was it the tokens? Was it just the combination of all of it? At that point, you kind of have to ask yourself, are you actually a scientist, or did you just get incredibly lucky?
Yeah, and that is the exact dilemma that practitioners face every single day. I mean, we are operating in the absolute definition of a complex, dynamic environment.
Yeah, totally.
We aren't in some sterile lab,
Yeah.
mixing precise chemicals in tiny beakers. We are in messy classrooms.
Chaotic living rooms.
Exactly. Busy offices. And when a really complex intervention package works, the scientific burden is actually on us to figure out the active ingredients. We can't just leave a massive, demanding behavior plan in place just because we're too afraid to touch it.
Which brings us right to the core of today's deep dive. We are looking at this fantastic stack of study materials and mock exams from Amethyst Therapy Services.
The behavioral intelligence content.
Yep, specifically the content created by Mara Sánchez. And our mission for you today is exploring domain D.8 from the foundations list.
Which is identifying the rationales for comparative, component, and parametric analyses.
Right. And I mean, on paper, those three terms look like typical, dry academic hurdles. But in practice, these are the ultimate diagnostic tools for your clinical work.
They really are.
It's how you figure out not just if a treatment works, but, which one dominates, what specific gear inside the machine is actually turning, and exactly how much fuel that gear needs.
I love that analogy. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, mastering D.8 is really about mastering the fundamental philosophy of single-case experimental design.
Right.
Because we don't just guess. And we certainly don't leave these bloated, complex treatment packages in place forever.
Yeah, that's a recipe for burnout.
Oh, absolutely. We use these analyses to optimize the treatment. I mean, we have a professional obligation to ensure our interventions are effective, efficient, and parsimonious.
Parsimonious meaning simple.
Exactly. The simplest explanation or the simplest intervention. You have to be able to prove how you arrived at the most minimally intrusive intervention that still actually gets that desired behavior change.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Because before we can even start dissecting a specific treatment package to see how it works, we usually have to answer a much broader, fundamental question.
Right.
Out of two completely different approaches, which one actually works better for the human being right in front of us?
Which is where we bring in our first tool.
Comparative analysis.
Right. So a comparative analysis basically pits two or more entirely distinct independent variables head to head.
Like a competition.
Exactly like the competition. You're looking at the effects of completely different interventions to determine which one produces the most socially significant behavior change for your client.
And the Amethyst Therapy sources provide this really great clinical scenario for this. It features a practitioner named David.
Oh, right. The classroom example.
Yeah. So David is working with a learner, and his primary objective is to increase on-task behavior in a classroom setting. Now, David doesn't just pick his favorite strategy out of a hat, right?
Hopefully not.
Right. He decides to run a comparative analysis. So first, he implements a fixed ratio reinforcement schedule, and he meticulously tracks the data on that on-task behavior.
Okay.
Then he switches gears entirely and implements a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, tracking the data again.
Right, because he's treating those two schedules as entirely separate interventions.
Yes.
By comparing the fixed ratio schedule directly to the variable ratio schedule, David can actually look at the data paths and make a definitive data-driven decision.
Right.
So if the variable ratio schedule results in, significantly higher, more stable rates of on-task behavior, he has his winner. He successfully compared treatment A against treatment B.
You know, it really reminds me of like a blind taste test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like between two entirely different brands of soda, you're just trying to see which one the consumer drinks more of.
Yeah.
Or even like A/B testing in software development.
Right.
A tech company pushes two completely different user interfaces to see which one gets more clicks. You aren't necessarily asking why one button color worked better than the other.
No, you just want the overall winner of the competition so you can push the update live.
Exactly. But wait, this is where I want to push back a little. If we figure out the treatment A is better than treatment B, we still might not know why treatment A works, right?
Oh, that's a very good point.
Because what if treatment A, the winning soda, so to speak, has like 5 different rules or components attached to it? Like, say treatment A is this massive, multi-tiered token economy with a response cost component, and treatment B is just simple verbal praise.
Right.
If treatment A wins that comparative analysis, we just know the massive, complicated thing is better than the simple thing.
Yeah, we don't actually know which part of that massive token economy is doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. We're basically right back to the kitchen sink problem.
And this raises an important question, right? You're exactly right. Comparative analysis really just tells you who won the race.
Yeah.
To figure out why they won, you have to look under the hood.
Which leads us perfectly into the next type of analysis.
Component analysis.
The which part is working question.
Exactly. Because comparative analysis only gives us the winner, we use component analysis to dissect a complex treatment package to see which specific ingredients are actually causing the behavior change.
Okay, so define that formally for us.
Sure. By definition, a component analysis is an attempt to determine which specific part of an independent variable, meaning the treatment package, is the active mechanism of change.
Right.
And to even run a component analysis, you inherently have to be measuring at least 2 independent variables that make up that package.
I always think of this like baking a really complex cake.
Okay, that's the
And then systematically taking out one ingredient at a time. Like you take out the vanilla,
right.
then you bake it again without the baking powder, then without the salt. And you're just testing to see if the cake still tastes good or if it completely collapses.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
You systematically dismantle the package.
Yeah.
And the mock exams highlight a very relatable scenario for this. It's the email checker example.
Oh, I love this one. It hits a little too close to home.
Right. So imagine an office staff member who constantly interrupts her own workflow to check her email. I mean, her productivity is just tanking.
Yeah.
So the behavior analyst designs a treatment package with 2 distinct components to tackle this.
And the first component is a DRA, right? It's a differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. So she's explicitly taught and encouraged to check her email, but only at prescribed 30-minute intervals.
Exactly. And then the second component of that exact same package is a DRO.
Differential reinforcement of other behavior.
Right, where she receives a specific high-value incentive, like a really good bonus or something, if she can refrain from checking her email for 2 uninterrupted hours.
Okay, so they implement this package, the DRA and the DRO together, and it works flawlessly.
She stops checking her email constantly.
Right. But to find the active ingredient, the analyst has to separate these 2 interventions. Like they might withdraw the DRO and leave only that 30-minute DRA in place.
Right, and then they observe. Does a constant checking return?
And if not, then the DRO is just unnecessary fluff.
Exactly. Or maybe they realize it is only the combination of both components that keeps the behavior at bay.
They have to test it. The Amethyst materials also offer another great example about a practitioner named Juliet.
Oh, the timeout procedure.
Yeah. She's using a timeout procedure to reduce problem behaviors in a classroom, but her results are wildly inconsistent.
Like some days it works, some days it doesn't.
Exactly. So Juliet suspects the timeout itself is actually a package of different variables, so she breaks it down. She runs a component analysis by systematically varying which staff member administers the timeout.
Oh, right.
And she varies where the timeout physically occurs and when it's implemented. She's testing the ingredients.
To see which part of the environment or the intervention actually makes it effective.
Okay, but I have to challenge the practical application of this.
Go for it.
I understand the theory of like Juliet varying the staff members, but practically speaking, in a chaotic classroom with a learner exhibiting problem behavior, isn't it incredibly disruptive or maybe even dangerous to start playing around with the components of an intervention just to satisfy our scientific curiosity?
It can feel that way, yeah.
Like, if the email-checking woman's intervention package is working perfectly, why mess with it? Isn't it risky to take away parts of a successful intervention just to see what happens? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, this raises an important point, and it's a tension you will feel constantly in clinical practice.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. But it all comes back to the ethical burden we place on our clients.
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. If you have a learner on a highly complex, demanding behavior plan, one that requires constant monitoring, artificial reinforcement, heavy staff involvement, that plan is intrusive.
Right. It takes a lot of energy.
Yes. And if a component analysis reveals they actually only need one small part of it to succeed, well, keeping the rest of it in place is an ethical failure.
Because all that extra fluff is actually a bad thing. It's violating parsimony.
Exactly. We are restricting their environment unnecessarily. Removing the inactive components of a treatment package saves staff time, it reduces the required effort, and most importantly, it respects the client's autonomy.
By not subjecting them to more intervention than they truly need.
Right. We dismantle the engine because we have a duty to ensure the client isn't carrying around parts they just don't need.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, you wouldn't force someone to use a wheelchair, crutches, and a leg brace if all they actually needed was a knee sleeve.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, so comparative analysis tells us which treatment wins the race. Component analysis tears the winner apart to tell us what specific part of the treatment is actually doing the work.
Yep.
But once you isolate that single active ingredient, we still have another problem to solve.
I do. We have to figure out the dosage.
The how much question.
Right. Because finding the right ingredient is only half the battle. The next logical step is determining exactly how much of that ingredient is required to get the job done.
And that requires a parametric analysis.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because of the word dosage perfectly captures the mechanism here.
It really does.
A parametric analysis evaluates a range of values for a single independent variable. So think about finding the Goldilocks zone for a medical prescription. Okay. If a doctor prescribes you 5 milligrams of a medication, it might not be enough to cure the illness, but if they jump straight to 500 milligrams, you might experience severe side effects, or it's just a waste of money.
Right. Your body's processing medicine it didn't actually need. You are looking for the minimum effective dose.
Yes.
It is entirely about intensity, magnitude, and duration. You're basically taking one single isolated intervention and turning the volume dial up and down to see how loud the music actually needs to be.
The sources for Mara Sánchez have some brilliant real-world examples of this. Let's look at the one about organizational behavior management.
The pay bonus study.
Yeah. So a company wants to evaluate the effect of pay bonuses on employee performance.
Right.
They want to increase overall productivity, obviously, so they analyze different parameters of the bonus. They test a $100 bonus, a $200 bonus, and a $500 bonus.
Right, so they're keeping the intervention the exact same, and it is always a monetary bonus.
Yeah.
But they're evaluating a range of values. If the data shows that the $100 bonus increases productivity just as much as the $500 bonus, well, the company has identified the minimum effective parameter and saved themselves a massive amount of money.
Which every company loves. There's also a similar scenario in the materials of a marketing firm trying to get consumers to sit through an entire 30-minute promotional video.
Right.
And to find the sweet spot, they offer different values of gift cards, like $10, $20, $5, and $2. They just run a parametric analysis to see exactly how much they need to spend to maintain that viewing behavior.
And we use this constantly in clinical and educational settings, too.
Oh, for sure.
The study guides feature a child named Amber. So her practitioner wants to increase her chore completion, right?
Okay.
So they experimentally manipulate the number of tokens Amber receives for finishing a specific chore. They test whether 2 tokens are sufficient, or if she requires 5 tokens to maintain the behavior.
Or take Drake, another practitioner from the materials. He uses a parametric analysis to determine exactly what size of stickers he needs to use on his client's reward chart.
Right, so the physical size of the sticker represents the range of values being tested for that independent variable.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this again.
I figured you would.
Because looking at the mechanics of these examples, it reveals some massive logistical hurdles, don't you think?
How so?
Well, let's take the organizational bonus example. If I am an employer and I give my team a $500 bonus for high performance 1 month, and then the next month I drop it to $100 just to test the parameter, my employees are going to riot.
Oh, definitely.
Right. The resulting drop in productivity wouldn't necessarily be because $100 isn't enough. It would be because they're furious about the pay cut.
Yeah, you'd have a mutiny on your hands.
So how do you actually run a parametric analysis without contrast effects completely ruining your data?
Well, you are hitting on a really critical methodological challenge there, sequence
Oh, really?
effects. In a real-world scenario like the corporate bonuses, a behavior analyst likely wouldn't run a within-subject design where the exact same employees experience the $500 bonus and then the $100 bonus.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they would likely use a between-subjects design. So, testing the $100 bonus on one department and the $500 bonus on a completely different but comparable department.
That makes a lot more sense.
Right. Or, if they're doing it with one individual, like Amber and her tokens, they have to carefully design the fading process to mitigate those exact emotional and behavioral contrast effects.
Which leads right into my other point about Drake and his stickers. Analyzing the physical diameter of a smiley face sticker feels incredibly granular. Like, are we literally just generating data for the sake of science at that point? Is that really necessary?
You know, what's fascinating here is that the physical size of the sticker seems trivial until you remember the ultimate goal of applied behavior analysis.
Which is
Independence. Fading is arguably the most important phase of any intervention.
getting them off the plan entirely.
Yes. If a learner relies on artificial rewards, giant stickers, massive handfuls of tokens, high-value edibles, they're anchored to you and your intervention.
Right.
You want them to transition away from those artificial reinforcers to the natural reinforcers that are just available in their everyday environment.
That makes sense.
So to get them there smoothly, without the target behavior just completely collapsing, you must incrementally test the lowest possible dose that still maintains the positive behavior.
Wow.
So shrinking that sticker from a giant, visually overwhelming star down to a tiny, barely noticeable dot, that's a systematic, scientifically sound way to transfer stimulus control and build independence.
It isn't just data collection, it's a calculated exit strategy
Because
that completely reframes the purpose of the analysis for me. Okay, so now that you, the listener, have a solid grip on the theoretical mechanics of all three analyses, we really need to pivot to practical application.
yes, the exam tips.
Right, because knowing the definitions is one thing, but knowing how to isolate these variables in the real world and how to avoid getting tripped up on the BCBA exam is another challenge entirely.
Definitely. The exam writers love to test your ability to discriminate between these three concepts using these highly detailed, tricky scenario questions.
Oh, they do.
To navigate those and to ensure your clinical data is actually valid in the real world, you have to anchor yourself to the fundamental rule of single-case experimental design.
Which is change only one variable at a time.
Right. Change only one variable at a time. If you change the amount of a reinforcer A and D, the type of intervention simultaneously,
Yeah.
you have no idea what caused the behavior change.
Your internal validity is just destroyed.
Completely compromised. Like, if you introduce a brand new token board and simultaneously increase the required work time from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, and the problem behavior spikes, what caused the spike?
Right. Was the token board ineffective, or was this sudden jump to 30 minutes of work just too much?
You can't possibly know.
You failed to isolate the variables. And to run these comparisons efficiently and cleanly, especially for comparative and component analyses, the Amethyst materials point out that behavior analysts often rely on a specific graphing method.
The multi-element design.
Yes, which is also widely known as an alternating treatments design.
Right.
So instead of running treatment A for 3 weeks and then treatment B for 3 weeks, this design rapidly alternates between the different conditions.
So you might run treatment A in the morning and treatment B in the afternoon.
Exactly. It plots all the data on one single graph, allowing you to visually inspect the data paths. If one path clearly separates and pulls ahead of the other, you've quickly determined which intervention or component is superior.
And the primary advantage of the multi-element design is its efficiency. It doesn't require a withdrawal to baseline.
Oh, that's huge.
It is. If you are dealing with severe self-injury or dangerous aggression, ethically, you cannot withdraw a successful treatment just to prove experimental control. Rapidly alternating conditions allows you to compare effectiveness without leaving the client unprotected for extended periods.
But wait, the mechanics of alternating treatments can be incredibly complex for the learner, right? Like, how do they know which rule applies in the morning versus the afternoon?
Well, you have to pair each condition with a clear, distinct, discriminative stimulus, or SD.
Okay.
For example, if you're comparing two different reinforcement schedules, you might wear a blue lanyard during Schedule A and a red lanyard during Schedule B. The learner has to be able to visually discriminate which contingencies are currently in effect.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does this all mean for you when you're sitting in the exam chair? Let's look at the most common mistakes students make.
Confusing component and parametric.
Yes. The study guides explicitly note this. So let's do a little pop quiz.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm going to play the role of the exam. Let's say you get this scenario. A practitioner is testing whether a 1-minute timeout works better than a 5-minute timeout for a client's disruptive behavior.
Right.
Now, in plain English, the practitioner is comparing a 1-minute duration against a 5-minute duration. Therefore, this is a comparative analysis, right?
And if you select comparative analysis, you will get the question wrong.
Really?
It is absolutely not a comparative analysis.
Even though the word compare is literally in the description.
I know it's a trap.
Yeah.
You have to look past the conversational language and analyze the independent variable itself.
Right.
You're evaluating a 1-minute duration versus a 5-minute duration. That is a measure of time. It is a parameter. You're testing a range of values for the exact same intervention, which is a timeout.
Right.
Because you are varying the volume dial of a single intervention, it is a parametric analysis.
So if you wanted that scenario to be a comparative analysis, you would have to pit the 5-minute timeout against a completely distinct intervention. Like timeout versus a token economy. Two entirely different philosophies competing for the best data path.
Precisely. Comparative is pitting distinct interventions against each other. Component is dissecting a multi-part package to find the active mechanism, and parametric is analyzing a range of values for a single variable to find the optimal dose.
Which gives you the 3 ultimate shortcuts. Comparative is which one, component is which part, and parametric is how much.
That's the perfect way to remember it.
If you map those 3 questions to the terms when you are reading a complex exam scenario, the noise fades away and the correct answer just becomes obvious.
It really does.
And that actually brings us to the summary of our exploration into domain D.8. We have officially dismantled the rationales for comparative, component, and parametric analyses.
We've looked at the clinical logistics of running these analyses, the necessity of isolating variables, and how they ultimately empower us to optimize treatment for the individuals we serve.
Yes, and keep your momentum going because you will definitely want to stay tuned for our next deep dive.
Oh, yes.
We are going to tackle the final topic in domain D, which is D.9, applying single-case experimental designs. We'll be getting into the precise mechanics of A/B withdrawal designs, multiple baselines, changing criterion designs. It's really the perfect continuation of what we built today.
But before we close this session, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time today discussing parametric analysis and the pursuit of the minimum effective dose.
Right.
We talked about finding the $100 bonus instead of the $500 bonus, or the tiny dot sticker instead of the giant star, all to build independence and satisfy the requirement of parsimony.
The calculated exit strategy.
Exactly.
Right.
But as you design these titration schedules in your own practice, I want you to consider the intersection of clinical efficiency and human experience.
Oh, that's interesting.
In our rigid pursuit to be perfectly parsimonious, at what point does optimizing the minimum dose cross the line into artificially restricting a learner's overall experience of joy and positive reinforcement?
Wow.
I mean, just because a tiny sticker mathematically maintains compliance, does it mean it is inherently the best choice for the human being sitting in front of you?
Yeah.
We measure the dosage of reinforcement, but we must also account for the quality of the environment we are leaving behind.
From the sterile beaker in the lab, right back to the messy, beautiful reality of human behavior.
Exactly.
It's a brilliant question to keep in mind. See you next time.